Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
This is for any company, anybody who has a team, employer, all of this that provides benefits and health insurance. And it's staggering every time I talk with this gentleman how much fraud there is going around, how many companies are paying so much money, sometimes in the millions, for claims that they didn't need to get paid. Sometimes there's double billing. Sometimes there's certain ways that things are processed where these companies, maybe yours, is on the hook for that. He's got a healthcare expense reduction company. They are the experts in figuring all this stuff out. And amazingly, they don't charge unless they find something, and they take a percentage of that. So we're going to talk with this guy today. Scott Hettesheimer is back with us. Hey, Scott, welcome. How are you?
Doing great, Steve. How are you today?
I'm well. And I never knew that this existed, even your niche of going in there, looking at what a company is doing in terms of their insurance, what they're paying in terms of the claims, and then potentially finding challenges or issues with that. When you, and we'll go over how you do this and what you do for companies, but on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being you typically always find expenses that didn't need to be there, that the companies that didn't need to pay. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, yeah, I find it all the time. Where do you sit? What do you think on average?
Steve, I don't recall an employers group that we have researched that hasn't had overcharging, fraud, money being stolen from their benefits plan. I'm not going to say 100% of the time. We haven't looked at 100% of the companies, but I don't recall any company that we've looked at over the last, say, 3 years that didn't have at least 3% of their paid claims, I don't know, unnecessary, stolen, fraud, abuse, overcharging. It's whatever you want to call it. It's money that was automatically deducted from the employer's checkbook to pay claims. Now we're talking
Wow.
about self-insured employers.
When a company offers insurance and benefits to their employees, do they all have to pay when there's a claim made? Let's say somebody has, we have a company. I'm going to go very hypothetical here. Company of 50 employees. They offer insurance to their employees. And that's great. It's a reduction of what you normally would have to pay if you were paying out of pocket. You were buying your own insurance. So that's great that the employer offers that. When there is a claim, let's say one of the employees has a car accident and there's some pretty heavy claims there, hospitalization, maybe there's surgery, maybe there's rehab, a lot going on there. Is the company always on the hook for part of that claim? Is that how it typically works?
I could answer yes to that. I could also answer no. I'm not trying to get new accounts as an agent. Okay, I'm a consultant, and we can work with your agent. Okay, and it's a different relationship that employers typically haven't been introduced to. So getting back to your question, Steve, first of all, car accident, we're assuming that it's that person's fault, because if it's the other person's fault, then their car insurance would cover your medical
Sure.
injury liability.
And
So
that could have been any example, any claim. Somebody has cancer.
correct.
It could have been anything. But I was just curious if the company is offering insurance to their employees. Of course, they have that expense to absorb, their portion of the insurance. Typically, employees always pay into it to some extent, usually. Um, but when there is a claim, substantial one, the company is actually absorbing some of that. That's where I'm going with that. Just thinking about,
Sure.
these companies.
Well, again, I can answer that yes, and I can answer it no. It depends. If, typically with a 50-man group, you would, 60, 70, 80% of the time, you discover that that employer is fully insured, which means their insurance is in a pool and it's mixed with 1,000 other companies.
Right.
So when you're in a pool like that, basically the employer just pays an insurance premium. Okay. They don't pay the claims. The insurance company pays the claims and they collect full premium. And, unfortunately, fully insured employers have no chance at reducing the cost of healthcare or benefiting from reducing the cost of healthcare. You have to be self-insured in order to have a chance.
Hmm.
But when you're fully insured, the insurance company just simply auto adjudicates the bills that come in and they pay the bills. And there's no input from the employer. There's no financial deduction from the account. The employee would have to pay their deductible and co-insurance, maybe as high as $19,000. That's the ACA these days.
Wow.
That's supposed to be affordable healthcare. $19,000. Who can afford that? 60% of the country lives check to check.
Don't even get me started.
Yep, that's not affordable.
Whole different topic there, and that's not what you specialize in. You're finding the fraud for companies. I get you.
Yep.
Wow.
Now, if the company is self-insured, then the bills, the adjudicating company for that self-insured plan would deduct the money from the employer, so the employer is paying.
Right.
And then, of course, the employee pays too. So it depends on what kind of coverage you have, if you're fully insured or self-insured.
Let's look at how you review medical claims and the recovery process. Take us through maybe the difference between companies with, 0 to 50 employees, above that and above that. And my other question here, as we dig into this, when you recover or seek to recover, how often are you successful in getting that done? Where the insurance company says, all right, well, yeah, we didn't see that, or yeah, we billed that way, which was not right. That they give up what they absorbed, what they took.
I think I can confidently state that we are always successful in recovery. That doesn't mean we're successful in recovering 100% of the overcharge, but our minimum average recovery per account is 3%. And the government, HHS, has identified 25% of healthcare costs being fraud. Typically, well, we don't find or recover 25%. I mean, if we did, you'd get it. But we see as high as 14, 15% recovery. It's 14, 15% of the total healthcare spend.
Got it.
Not what we identified as fraud. Because many times we recover 100% of the overcharge or fraud. And it's in their best interest to do so. I mean, when we find like a claim adjudicating service and they're charging $59,000 on a claim they should have charged $7,000 on, when we point this out, they don't have to be talked into paying it back, because this is actually fraud. And if we were to take it one step further and pursue it, they got more problems and more expenses than the overcharge.
Wow.
So, understanding the situation that they're in when we find overcharging and fraud, they want to correct that.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess it's a good position to be in. And I got to ask this question. Is this mostly done intentionally? Some things slip through the cracks. We didn't know that we charged for that. Oh, sorry about that. Or is it mostly done intentionally by the healthcare organizations offering care, or the hospitals, whatever?
Understand, I've said this before, I'm disruptive in the marketplace. And my answer to your question is my opinion, and I would say absolutely.
Okay, that's it.
It's absolutely intentional. It's by
I'm not
design.
surprised. I was just curious.
It's by design.
Yeah.
There's software that software companies sell to uh, administrators and so on and so forth to bundle claims because, with 80 plus thousand codes, procedure codes, when you go in for a surgery, there's usually 5, 6, 7, 10 different procedures that are done and they're all billed under different codes. So these codes are bundled for discount. Well, guess what? The same company that sells these bundling software uh, programs, they also sell to the other party debundling software programs. These programs are written specifically to pull the claim apart so that they can bill individually for each procedure. So that is absolutely intentional. I mean,
Sure.
there's no possible discussion on that topic. It is intentional in that example.
Wow. Let's take a look at some of the programs that you offer and what you do when you take that deep dive into a company's insurance situation. How does that go?
Sure. Um, My company, Advanced Benefit Design Institute, yes, we're focused on groups with 500 plus employees, self-insured groups. And we've talked, using the entire 30-minute podcast just on what's going on there, recovery, so on and so forth. So
Sure.
I'll skip that part of our service. That's our main service, still is. But we have services for companies that are self-insured. And a company could be self-insured. There's plans out there with 10 employees on the plan. So, I would say companies that have anywhere from 10 employees to 499 employees, they would benefit from a service we have that's called cost modeling. And what we do is we collect the healthcare data, again, plan data, so on and so forth. We crunch numbers. We'll go through 24 months of healthcare and RX claims if you're already self-insured. If you're not, we have another software program for fully insured companies. But if you're self-insured, we collect this data, we reprice all of your claims. And again, we're not charging an employer to do these services. When we reprice the claims, we can identify which component of your self-insured plan, which vendor. I mean, there's a vendor for claim adjudication, there's a vendor for network, there's a vendor for stop loss. I mean, there's several vendors. Even if you're under a legacy carrier plan where everything is under one name and you don't have these individual components, all of these individual components still exist in every self-insured plan. We look at the PBM, that's your pharmacy benefit manager. We look at that too. Typically, I'll get into that as the next service. But we go through and do a cost modeling service for the employer, and we'll identify vendors by category that are overcharging, not treating you right. And then we recommend replacement of these vendors. We would typically work with your agent and point this out to them and help them to replace these vendors in that solution. Sometimes it may take replacing the entire plan because legacy carriers do not let you replace their vendors. It's it's their way or the highway. So, I guess it's a good transition into the pharmacy, what we do with pharmacy benefit managers. We audit these claims. Typically the pharmacy portion of an employer's cost, healthcare cost, 5-10 years ago was 18-22% of the total medical spend. Today we're seeing it be maybe higher than 35%. And when you have monthly prescription costs, certain drugs that are $12,000-15,000 a month, we never had these 5-10 years ago. Prescriptions that are $500 or $600 a month. Again, we didn't have those. Those were rare prescriptions 5-10 years ago. Today, it's norm. So that's why pharmacy spending is now maybe 35 plus% of an employer's spend. Actually, I've seen it as high as 60%. So this pharmacy component is very important. And, we vet PBMs, and that's why we say you want a PBM that is doing business to a fiduciary standard, and they're 100% transparent, so you can see what's going on, what they're charging. There are very few PBMs that are doing business to a fiduciary standard. They all claim that they're doing business 100% transparent, but there's no definition of transparency. They all have their own. And by our work, our definitions, no, they aren't transparent. But that's another one of our services is we go in, we audit just the pharmacy side of things. And, if we find 40–50% overcharging in pharmacy, which we do, we would recommend changing to a different pharmacy benefit manager. And again, we're not an agent. It's not insurance, so, when we
Right.
change pharmacy benefit managers, we're not an insurance agent.
I think one of the major benefits that I see here is that they do the deep dive. And again, all of this is without cost until there's a collection. But not only do you peel back many, many layers in this whole insurance situation, but you also contact the providers to collect the overpayment. So it's not like you're going to the company that you're working for or brought you in to take a look at everything, and you're saying to them, yeah, this is what we found. Here it is. Well, good luck to you. You're contacting those who overcharged, which I have that right. Am I correct in saying all of this?
Yes, you are. And that's an interesting point that you bring up, because our competitors in this market space under the name claim auditing, that's like everything's a Kleenex, it's a generic name. Our competitors, that's all they do is claim auditing. And they aren't doing it the same way we do it. We don't have any network limitations. We don't have any contractual agreements with any of these vendors where, certain types of audits or, it's just taboo. We don't have those restrictions. But most importantly, our service includes recovery. 100% of the time includes recovery. And, it has to, because that's the only way we get paid. We don't get paid unless we recover. It's one thing to find $3 million of overcharging in a 500-man group. But yeah, just turning that data over, you're not going to collect any of that as a self-insured employer. You're not going to get it. You need somebody that knows how to do it. And, that's us. That's where we come into play. And that's how we can do our pricing the way we do it. We don't charge for all the investigation and deep dive and all that. We charge only upon recovery. And Steve, if we weren't recovering or finding, 100%, we'd be out of business.
Yeah, because you don't charge,
We don't charge
a consultation fee, a retainer, or any of that stuff.
We only get paid on performance. Now, I will mention also, we're also unique in recovery, whereas we not only recover money lost or taken from the employer, but the employees many times pay part of this because they were the patient and they had patient billing. And we find money that the patients have overpaid, so they get checks issued to them directly from us, not through the employer, issued directly from us when we recover money that includes money that they paid.
Okay.
So, our service is very unique.
So let me go back to that for a moment. When you work to collect the overpayment, the whoever overcharged connects with you, they send the payment to you, and then you take care of it. I would assume you take a small percentage, your percentage from the payment, and then it goes to the person that you worked with, the company.
Yeah, we're basically on a average of a 50-50 split on recovery
Gotcha.
with, with the plan sponsor. Plan sponsor would be the employer. So yeah, we're basically a 50-50 split.
When you think about the numbers, and you've shared some of them before, actually, let's do that. We have a moment here. Let's look at, every company's different. Every situation is different. That's my disclaimer. However, a company with, say, 100 employees on average, and this is very ballparkish, if you will. I'm going to make that a word today, ballparkish. When you do a deep dive of 3 years, how much overpayment do you sometimes usually find? And then let's go for a company that's, 500 plus employees.
Sure. Well, let's go ahead and do the 500 employees because that's where we're doing the retrospective audit and recovery. When we're doing 100 employees and we find this, we're basically recommending the changing of vendors because we are not going after and recovering the overcharging in a 100-man group. We do that for a 500 plus man group.
Gotcha.
So, but using an example of 100, well, I'd rather stick with the 500, I guess. I see an average for a 500-man group. I'd say the average is about $6 or $7 million in medical claims in a year. If they had a bad year, it could be 2 or 3 times that. I mean, I have a 150-man group that we just worked on, and they incurred over $12 million in medical bills in 1 year. Now, that was the retail charges. By the time it was discounted and everything else, their expenditure was about 1.4 million. Now,
Wow.
we helped them get down to that 1.4 million by picking out vendors that were more competitive and worked more honestly in the marketplace. Because the same vendors that do the 500-man group, they will, all of them will do a 100-man group. It's just that we can't do the recovery for them. But the benefit is that $12 million of retail charges was adjudicated properly at about 1.4 million. So, that is money they didn't have to spend. It's not money we recovered, it's just money they didn't have to spend. So, when we advance that number to say a 500-man group and, say that they're on the average payment side or on claims incurred, that number is just simply times 5. So that would be $7-8 million, if I'm doing my math right in my head. We would identify out of that, let's say $8 million times 3 years, making it $24 million. And let's say we come up with I don't want to use a real number because I don't have a calculator in front of me. Let's just say it's 10%, even though it's probably going to be more like 13 or 14%. But 10% of that, what did I just say? 24 million? We would find 10% of that, $2.4 million.
That's a tremendous amount of money that is just
free money.
Going nowhere. Well, it's going somewhere in the pockets
it's free money when it comes back to the employer. They didn't have to increase sales to get, an extra $2 or $3 million that would be like taxable revenue. This isn't taxable revenue. This is a return on money they already spent and went through the tax processes of wherever it's applicable. It's not income.
Right. Exactly. Amazing. Scott, how do we connect with you? Company is hearing this and they're thinking, we got money coming our way. We need to get Scott in here and take a look at it. Well, how does the process work?
Sure. Well, you either have money coming your way or, there's ways that we can reduce the amount of money that you're spending. And again, you'd be doing this probably through your own agent. If you don't like your own agent, we'll help you find one. But, we do business nationwide. My website is theabdi.com. You can reach me. My direct contact information is on the website. And my direct phone is 513-720-4400. That's 513-720-4400. I answer my phone. It's not a automated voice system and push 1 or push 7 and you get into 2 or 3 different menus. I hate that. So I'm not going to do business that way. I give you my direct line and I answer it if I'm not already on the line or doing a podcast. Or I make you my first call that I return as soon as I'm free. But I return. That's how I do it. I mean, I return every call as soon as I'm free. Right away. And that's at the 513-720-4400. You can go to the website. I have email addresses there. theabdi.com. Stands for Advanced Benefit Design Institute. That's a URL we use too, but it's easier for people driving down the road to remember theabdi.com.
I'm going to use these 2 words. The bottom line is, and I mean that literally, you have nothing to lose. There's no loss here, only gain by making the phone call, going to the website, connecting. It's a no-brainer for me. Scott, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate all the insight and exposing what's going on out there and making it right. I really appreciate that.
We do everything we can to make it right. And, I'm interested in helping every employer out. It doesn't matter if you're fully insured or self-insured. It doesn't matter if you have 7,000 employees. I mean, we're working a group right now with 100,000 employees. So, in that particular group, we're finding probably $100 million.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy.
It is advancedbenefitdesigninstitute.com. Thanks for being here, Scott.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.